Okay. It looks like that's working. All right. Okay. Welcome to this webinar with NetThreat. And today we're going to be talking about SonicWall Cloud App Security. My name's Alex. I'm one of the territory sales engineers here at SonicWall. Look after the UK and Ireland specifically. So yeah, thank you for joining. We're going to be talking about this. Like I mentioned just before the recording, I am recording this session. There will be a Q&A at the end. And yeah, okay. So cloud app security. Let's crack on. So let's talk about the impacts of cloud SaaS apps. Well, so we're in a situation where our topologies, our network topologies, our infrastructure has changed dramatically. Certainly in the last few years that I've been with Sonic, or indeed before as a contractor. So this is a typical deployment which I hope we'll all be familiar with. SonicWall, who largely sell firewalls. Obviously, you'll be aware that we have a large portfolio of security products, but perimeter security was where it was at. As you can see on this slide, there's typically a perimeter gateway, and it's at your office, it's behind your mobile devices, sit behind it, and then you have your data center, and that's typically where your SaaS apps and reside. If you're big enough, you'll have a separate data center, or it will just be a comms room downstairs in the basement, depending on the size of your organization. Okay, so these applications, these apps will sit behind a secure gateway, which hopefully is a SonicWall firewall with all the security services enabled and looked after by the lovely guys here at NetThreat. And you have control about what's coming in and what's going out, and any vulnerabilities would be a user issue. I think that's fair to say. Okay, good. So how's that changed? So now there's a migration of that sort of infrastructure to the cloud. Public cloud, private cloud. And what that means is that the perimeter has disappeared. Yes, it's absolutely paramount that you need a firewall to protect your location, your perimeter. But it's not the only place where you want secured. Just to use a terrible analogy, I liken it to you have your house, you have your stuff in your house, your furniture, your television, I suppose. And what you do is, let's say you're doing some renovations, you take that stuff, you put it into one of them storage depots. And then it stays there while you're getting work done at your house. Now, the reason why I think that's relevant is that storage depot needs to be secured. You assume it's secured. You assume that they have, barriers in place, security guards, cameras, and all that good stuff. Okay, so and that's a similar sort of scenario of what we have here. If you're migrating to Office 365, to G Suite, and there's a few apps listed there in that cloud. Then yeah, you have to, you assume that they're protected, and you have to make efforts that they are protected, and that's what SonicWall CAS is about, making sure that stuff is secured. We'll get to that shortly. So here are the challenges. Email phishing, targeted phishing remains the number one threat vector. Forgive me, that's the number one threat vector out in the market. So SonicWall have always had an email security solution, whether it's an on-premise solution or a cloud solution. That's evolving. We've found, and if you're a fan of the SonicWall threat report, the biannual threat report, you will see the trends. That show the rise in the compromised the way people get access to your network and your data. So we've certainly observed this, and we've implemented this solution to cover that gap, as it were. So and that includes email, and we'll cover in the form that takes shortly. Credentials being compromised. People taking your user details. That's certainly on the increase. Some of you maybe you get emails, of your email address that's been stolen or it's been sold, and people use that for targeted phishing campaigns to try and get you, to give up your credit card numbers and so on. So that's certainly increased. I mean, I get them daily from my IMAP accounts. And this you need to be protected from that. You could be as knowledgeable as you like, but you need something to help protect against that. And then you've got your data security. So this is as an organization, you may have a need to protect some of that data, stop it from leaving your offices, from the machines of your staff. Again, it's all well and good having a shared drive in the cloud like your Dropbox or your OneDrive and so on, but who's making sure that the files that are going in there are allowed to go in there? It's something that it's difficult to keep tabs on, and not just making sure the files can go in there is whether those files are protected. So if someone's leaving files in your Dropbox and your box, we need to make sure that they're protected and you can download them safely. Okay. So those are the challenges that we have in the market. Let's have a look. Spinning on. There we go. So how do we solve these challenges? So first of all, you want an affordable solution, a cloud access, a cloud application solution. Visibility is key. Being able to see what's going in and out, and the visibility is a part that I'm always railing about when I talk to my customers. Whether it's about their firewall, whether it's about the remote access, it's all well and good in having this technology in place. But if you are not keeping eyes on it, if you are not watching what goes in and out, then then what's the point? You need to know, because you can spot patterns, you can see trends. People are probing your defenses all the time. Next gen of email. So again, we said that was the number one vector. So you need to block those phishing attacks, and because we look after Office 365 and specifically Office 365 and G Suite, having that layer of security on those solutions. I'm well aware that they provide their own solutions, and we have a slide later on comparing and seeing the differences. But yeah, having that protected is very important. Okay, so sandboxing. So if you've been on a session with either myself or one of my colleagues and with NetThreat, you've probably heard us mention our Capture ATP, our award-winning sandboxing solution. So this is the solution that protects you against your ransomware. We will detonate files, and this protects you against the zero-day threats. People always we're quite naive in assuming that we're never going to be the first one to get exposed to a virus, but experience says differently. You need to make sure that you're protected against the stuff that's brand new. Signature-based AV is a dying art, I think, and so Capture sandboxing. This is just a SonicWall Cloud Access Security. Is protected by SonicWall Capture ATP, just like the rest of our technologies. Okay, data security. We've talked a little bit about that, making sure that your data and making sure that they're not being lost to the wide ether and to those bad actors. Sorry, excuse me. Excuse me while I just get a little bit distracted there. Where was I? Yeah, ability to introspect traffic. So you need to look in real time and see the historical information in your SaaS environment. Okay, so what have we got on offer? So SonicWall Cloud App Security. Here's the overview here. So the functionality on the left there is what we offer. First of all, Office 365. Now, certainly when I speak to my customers, I'd say the majority have moved to an Office 365 solution. So for obvious reasons. So that's sat in the cloud. That's your documents. You can see all those applications there on the right. We will help coverage that and we'll help secure those. So that's the phishing, that's the ransomware, the counter takeover, the DLP. And it's also G Suite. So I mean, it's one or the other, and we'll talk about the models, the licenses that we have available. So you can have your Office 365 account or a G Suite. I tend to see in my experience that G Suite seems to be quite popular with our education-based customers. But yeah, so mostly Office 365, but we perform a similar service. So with one cloud app security license, you could secure an instance of Office 365 or an instance of G Suite. Okay, good. But it's not just those two. So we also protect those SaaS apps are in the cloud. Now that list, some of those are available now, like Dropbox and Slack. So to use Dropbox as a good example, I mean that's certainly a file share tool that I've been using for a long time. The problem we have with Dropbox is they don't offer, as far as I'm aware, they don't offer a security service. They don't scan those files for viruses. I imagine that it's a privacy thing. and they certainly don't look for files that shouldn't be in there. Your account information, credit card details, username, passwords, and so on. So what we do, we have the ability to secure that Dropbox account by logging in there with the Cloud App Security, and making sure that there's nothing in there that shouldn't be in there. There are other applications there. So Salesforce is coming soon. Perhaps you're a Salesforce customer, or maybe even a Slack. Quite simply, those would be a case of protecting the credentials, making sure that the only person that's logging into those is you, and looking for algorithms to see if anyone's trying to force their way in there. Okay, good. So where do we sit now? For the SonicWall incumbents who are familiar, you will recognize this screen. This is SonicWall Risk Meters. If you have a SonicWall product, you will have access to this screen. You just have to log on to cloud.sonicwall.com with your My SonicWall details, and there's a little button that says Risk Meters. Now, Risk Meters will give you an overview of your security posture. In an ideal world, you'll have your firewall, you'll have your email security, and your endpoint, and we list it here. And should you have those things, and should they be enabled correctly and doing the protection, then you'll be very safe, DEFCON 0. And if you don't, then that scales up, and you're in trouble, and there are some vulnerabilities. So where does Cloud App Security sit? Well, it sits here in the middle, along with SaaS email. So that's our cloud protection. So if you had Cloud App Security disabled, then some of those threats will make their way all the way in, and that in particular the file share apps, and like the Dropbox and OneDrive and so on. Okay, so why this solution? We talked about the perimeter protection, and the nice thing about the SonicWall solution is that it's API based. So what that means is that we're not intrusive as an MTA solution. So we're not sitting in line. We are essentially going into those instances of Office 365, of G Suite, of Dropbox. We're logging in because you've provided us with your credentials securely, and we were going in and we are doing that work. So the limitations of a gateway approach, it doesn't protect other apps for Office 365. So I'm pointing the finger at our very own email security solution. So SonicWall Email Security Solution, it sits in line. So whereas it does support Office 365 email, it doesn't support the other applications within that, like your OneDrive and your SharePoint. Okay, it cannot detect and compromised accounts. It doesn't know when people are trying to log in. There's a deployment overhead. I mean, I've got a customer at the moment who's trialing our email security, and what they need to do. The next step for them is that they need to route their email traffic via our email security. So they have to create an MX record. They have to redirect it, and that means that there's going to be some downtime. Well, you don't get that with Cloud App Security. So rather than you sending the mail to us in that scenario, with Cloud App Security, we are coming to you. We are going into that mailbox as it exists using the API provided by Office 365, and we were doing the work there. So it's rapid. Our boast is that you can get this set up within a minute. Incidentally, I should hasten to add at this point that you can trial Cloud App Security. I'm going to reiterate that point a couple of times, but you could trial this today after we're done, and I'll make sure we'll give you that information. Okay, moving on. So the problem with an MTA approach is that it's a point of failure. It's essentially a node that sits in line. If that goes down, and as reliable as it can be, it can affect. It's another thing that needs to be looked at. Should you have an interruption in your service, your service doesn't scan internal emails. So again, if we're only looking at email in transit with a gateway approach, then what happens to all the emails that reside already in your inbox? With Cloud App Security, we will go retrospectively and look in your inbox and look for those threats that sat in there. So if something is sat dormant within there, we will look at it. Okay, and as you can see with the gateway approach, you have no control over email after delivery. Whereas we can see the outbound mailbox with Office with the Cloud App Security. Okay, so API based. Let's talk about the benefits now, and API based is what we're doing. Okay, so I've already said we inspect all the email, including internal, all the file sharing and storage apps. So to use Office 365 as an example, you can see OneDrive there. Perhaps you're a OneDrive customer. I also use OneDrive, for especially for work-based stuff, and that's protected. You can detect compromised accounts. So Cloud App Security will show you, will show you and will alert you of people trying to log into your account. And at the end here, I will quickly jump into my instance just to show you a few of those screens if we have the time. Removes emails from inboxes after delivery. So again, like I said, retrospectively, we look into the inbox and we'll find those emails that are infected, or if they have files in there that just shouldn't be there. Okay, and like I said, very easy to deploy. Let's talk about how it works. So this is how your Office 365 works on a normal day. Someone sends an email, just to use the email as the example, sends an email to your email address. It goes to Office 365. It does its work there, depending on the security level that you purchase, and then obviously that mail is delivered to your inbox, your mail client on your laptop, and so on. Okay, so that's fine. So Office 365 is doing the work to protect you. Now, the way that we work is once you've given a Cloud App Security the credentials for that account, we connect to Office 365 directly via our cloud solution. So if you were to go with Cloud App Security, you would be doing it via the European data center. I'm not entirely sure if I'm guessing everyone attending here is either UK based or at the very least Europe based. So you would have a European data center, and that connection would be made from the SonicWall cloud, and that's the same SonicWall cloud that you would access to your management portal, to look at your reporting portal, or if you're a wireless customer, to manage your wireless access points. Okay, so that connection will go straight to Office 365 from there, connects to it, and then it does its work. And if there's anything there that by policy shouldn't be there, then we will quarantine it at that point within Office 365. Okay. All right, so just a bit more detail about phishing and ransomware. So there's over 300 plus threat indicators per email. So there's machine learning involved in this system. So we're looking, for those patterns that suggest that it's something not quite right, or it's dangerous. We are sandboxing it as well. So any attachments within that email, we are taking and we are detonating it in the cloud. So there's your extra layer of security, preventing it from coming into your network. All right, and what we also do is we have advanced URL protection for those emails. So what I haven't specified yet, within those emails, if there is a URL that someone has sent you, we will use, essentially we will click on that and run a test to make sure that it's safe and not something that has dodgy content or a file within that link. That's being developed. So in particular with Cloud App Security, the email side of it is what's being developed, and there is some detailed spam functionality, and although the system will block spam and stop it, what we're implementing soon is spam functionality, so that so the users themselves can then operate as you would expect for an email spam solution. Watch this space for that that method. Okay, good. So just to talk about the other aspects, so account takeover prevention. So again, we're looking for many events. So Superman logins, that's multiple times that people are trying to connect your account. So if someone's trying to log into your Office 365 from and I always pick on North Korea, they seems to be the easy target. However unlikely as it sounds, then we're going to flag that as an alert, and you will get either alerted or we'll then prevent it. And you have the means to prevent it going forward. You could see patterns like multiple failed logins, and the various different devices coming in. So all this will be listed. So if you deploy Cloud App Security and you have a user base of, let's say, 10 users, if one of them persistently is having an alert, you can say that person is being accessed, and you can take action accordingly. Okay, data leakage prevention, just a bit more detail about that. So you can set those consistent policies across all the SaaS apps. So I mentioned that I'm Dropbox and OneDrive, perhaps your Box as well. So all three, you can have a policy saying, no sensitive data, absolutely block it. So anything tries to get sent to those, block it. Or you could just send it to have it as an alert. So if your users are sending files and their address books, and maybe it's legitimate, so you just want to keep a track of that, and that's held as a log. Okay, so it just makes sure that you can that they're doing it if they're allowed to do it. So just a little summary on there. The fact that it's an API based, if it runs along other technologies, so there you can see is your perimeter file there on the left of that diagram. Cloud App Security will run in tandem with that. as that extra layer of prevention. And what you've got in the SonicWall Cloud app, sorry, the single pane of glass of cloud.sonicwall.com is that we will report from those threats, not just from the firewall, but from the cloud app security as well. So if there is a virus coming over your Dropbox, we will list that within our the dashboard there. All right. Good. So the SonicWall Advantage. So this solution isn't new, as you could probably imagine. We're not the only ones that are doing it. So the SonicWall Advantage, the single pane of glass means that you can manage this all from one screen, and I will demonstrate that shortly. So the idea is that if you as a customer has a My SonicWall account, you can just log in there. Perhaps you're managing your firewalls through there as well. That's all from one screen. And you could see, and it's just the ease of access of all that information. So I mentioned about our Capture ATP, and you could see all the technology on the left where we incorporate that and what we protect. Okay, with all of the the definitions that we have in the cloud. Good. Okay, so let's move on there. So let's just talk about Office 365. So a lot of times when I talk to existing Office 365 customers, they say to me, "Well, I've got the cloud protection from Office 365, which is what they do provide." So I've picked that as an example just to demonstrate that. So perhaps you're an Office 365 customer. Feel free to chime in after and ask that question. And you could see I think those prices were correct as of when this deck was created like a month or so ago. So I'm an Office 365 Business Essentials customer, so I have one account just for the purposes of demonstrating this. As you can see, if I didn't have SonicWall Cloud App Security, I'd have some very basic anti-spam, anti-malware, anti-spoofing. The anti-malware is signature based, and the anti-phishing is reputation based. But you can see all the red sections there of what's not being looked after. So if a customer says to me, I say to them, what level Office 365 are you using? And they say to me, oh, we're an E1 enterprise E1 customer. And I'll say, okay, look, you need to be aware of the following. And then I mention all those things that are listed on the left there. Okay. So yeah, so I mean, and I'll show you which flavor of cloud app security you need to protect yourself against that. Now, if a customer says to me, and maybe it's one of you guys on this session, I am an E5, I use Enterprise E5, then yes, there are similar features that you're using to protect yourself, and then I would argue that it comes down to price. Perhaps we can do that cheaper for you. Another argument is that just like you wouldn't wholly rely on Windows Defender on your laptop, maybe you do, and that's okay. But it's good practice to use different vendors to provide that layer of security. Just to cover those bases. I would argue that that's a very similar strategy. All right, so I hope that that makes sense on that one there. So again, we're covering the whole lot. So this is certainly something that we have here with this SonicWall Cloud App. Okay, so what are the flavors? I mentioned that there was two flavors. So we have two layers. There's Cloud App Basic and Advanced. Okay, so Cloud App Basic, quite simply, is either an Office 365 account or a G Suite account. Okay, and we just secure that. So that includes the email within there, and we do sandbox within that. What you don't get for that level is the data loss protection of those of Office 365 or G Suite, and what's not also secured is the other SaaS apps. So if you wanted to secure your Dropbox, you will need the advanced flavor, and the guys at NetThreat will be able to help you if you'd like a quote on that after this session. So those apps that you got listed there, I mean, as you can see, there's just a handful there. More are being added. So on the roadmap, as we work out our partnership with these various companies, you can expect more to appear there. And I mentioned Salesforce as one. That's something that's coming soon, just as an example. Okay, good. All right, so that's me done. I'm going to open the lines up for any questions. I will be showing a demo. We have got time. We've been running for about half an hour here so far. But before I go into the demo, I kind of want to just unmute this line and see what the feeling is, and if you've got any questions. So the lines are open. I reserve the right to mute you. Okay, good. That's a nice start. So yes, are there any questions about what I've shown as I'm jumping into the demo? That's stunned silence there. Good. Okay. Well, let me throw a question out to you guys, and I'm conscious that. Hang on a second. There's a couple of you. Okay. So I mean, there's a few of you who are still muted. I don't know if you're talking into the microphone. Is anyone using a solution to cover off the SaaS apps and Office 365? Maybe you're just using the Office 365 and you have their security and you've got the E5 solution. By all means, let's hear it. Okay, no, that's fine. I mean, look, if feel free to reach out after this session via the guys at NetThreat. I'm more happy to do a one-on-one conversation if needed. All right. So look, the lines are unmuted. If you build up the courage, just shout down the phone at me. Okay. So I'm just going to show you my instance. So this is my cloud instance. So this is my Capture Security Center instance now. So again, if you're a SonicWall customer, you have access to this. And even if you're not a SonicWall customer, you just need to have a My SonicWall account. So these tiles light up, and I've done various sessions with the guys at NetThreat on this. I've done a cloud app security, Capture Security Center with you guys. I'm pretty sure I've done a wireless session. I could be wrong actually. So if we're looking at about the CAS specifically, here's the button here. So if you were to go onto your My SonicWall now and enable the trial, this button will light up. So I mentioned that you can access the trial via My SonicWall, and then that's the 3 seats, and that's for, 5 seats, and that's for 30 days. So give it a go. So this is my dashboard. I've created a basic essentials Office 365 account. So that's one email account, and then I've added what I can to it. So as you can imagine, this is not my day-to-day email account. There's the email address there. What I've done is I've dumped a couple of files in my OneDrive. So I found a sample data file, and that's obviously triggered an alert. I've also sent myself a phishing email, and that's been picked up here. So it's Office 365. It isn't G Suite. So fortunately for me, no one's been logging into my no one's been logging into any of my my instances. A very important note. So for those SaaS apps that I mentioned, the non-Office 365 or G Suite accounts, there is a layer of layer of security that you have to, the layer of purchase that you have to have for it to function with us. So if you have a free Dropbox account, like I'm sure a lot of us do, I know I have, that won't function with this. You have to have the paid service in order to have the API functionality. Okay, and that's the same with Box. Okay, so I mean, I would like to say yes, you could try it with your Dropbox now, but you will have to have the paid instance. Okay, good. So from here, so this is your single pane of glass. Again, the scenario is that you've got 50 users all running on their Office 365. So as they're using their accounts, if one of those users is sending a file they shouldn't do, you'd see an alert here. You can define by policy here on the left. I'll click on that in a second. You can define by policy whether they can or can't do that, or if you just want to know as the admin. At that point, it's user decision. So I've clicked on events, and I've got the instance that's triggered my issues, and then I've got some decisions to make here. So I've just alerted the owner, and when I've sent that alert to the owner, then that Office 365 account will get that email saying, "Oh, what are you doing? You're sending this file," and the admin will get that as well. So all of them have been remediated. Yes, they're test files, so nothing to worry too much about it. Yeah, and there's just a general view on that, on what's going on. Now it's very straightforward to set up. But once, in fact, let's just jump onto that now. If I jump onto the configuration tab, all you need to do once you enable it, let's say you're enabling your trial later on, all you got to do is hit configure and put your credentials in there. And basically, you're giving permission for this app, for Cloud App Security, to jump into Office 365 on your behalf, just like a client would, and make those changes. So there's just the email address that I set up in order to do this. Same goes for your your other apps. So as you can see, there's inactive SaaS apps there. I don't have instances of Citrix ShareFile or ServiceNow. I haven't mentioned that already. Ignite, I'm not sure if you're using something like that. Well, coming soon, as you can see. And there's Dropbox. So if you hit start there, then you can put your credentials in. But like I say, it has to be a paid for service. So once you've put your credentials in, that's it. You're ready. You're going to start getting it's going to start jumping into your Dropbox and scanning those files. So if I jump into policy, let's just get on that there. There's my OneDrive. So I'm on detect and prevent. You can absolutely edit that. Users and groups, send files to a vault, alert admin, alert owner. So the admin will be the person who uses the SonicWall account. So hopefully, whoever the admin is, they have access to SonicWall. Well, they should do. So you check that level there. And that's the OneDrive, and there's the Office 365. I'm just going to click on one to drill down in details. And this is the part that it's we can expect to see more detail in the future as we increase and we roll out an actual user accessible spam option. Very simple to set up. Okay, so advanced threat protection, anti-phishing, and you can get a bit more granular. And these are all algorithms that are built into the the solution that we have. All right, so I'm not going to go through every option there. So yeah, I mean, at the moment you can whitelist files via an email, but they don't have access to a spam box. And like I said, that's something that's coming up soon. Okay, so there we go. There's your flexibility on that. And if you do have to quarantine files, I can't remember if I have got any quarantine. I don't seem to have any here. You can set an admin to restore them. As is always with these sort of solutions, you do get your false positives, and it's on. I like to think that we're fairly accurate in blocking these things, but it's on the admin to make sure that you can do it. If your users send restore requests, you don't want it to be a phone call. They hit the link and say, right, this file should be allowed. You'd have a list of files here, and then the admin can go through them and run their check and make sure that it's okay, and then re-release it back to the user. You've got to be careful here. I've seen far too many occasions where files, especially with email security, back in my contracted days, email security, where users say, oh no, I need that email, it's fine. A naive help desk engineer would release that file, and then bang, that's it, been compromised. So for all the security solutions and all the best will that you have, there's still a user input that's absolutely required. Okay, good. So that's just a very high level. I want to bore you to death with that. As you can see, it's very easy to set up. So I'm just going to throw it out again before we wrap up the session. Do we have any questions about what I've shown you? Is there anything specific that you'd like to ask about SonicWall Cloud App Security? Any heckling, at least?
I don't think so from this end, Alex. That was great. Thank you very much. Of course, if nobody wants to speak up at the moment, please do give us a call after the session, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Yep. No, I'm happy to reach to help if you wanted a one-on-one session, or perhaps you're going to run the trial and you need a little bit of input. More than happy to do that. Okay.
We will be sending a copy of this recording with the slides out to everybody who has attended today, and there'll be some details about how you guys can actually do your own free trial. And of course, we'll be happy to put you back in touch with Alex if there's anything else that you need help with.
Good. Okay, so on that note, I'm just going to kill the recording.